Hey everybody, I am here to talk to you about being Black and American abroad. So the reason I decided to talk about this is because I've been living in South Korea for about 3 years now. This is my third year. It's been a really eye-opening experience in meeting other Black people from around the world. So Black Canadians, Black British people, even Blacks living in Germany, just whatever. And seeing or learning about their perspective on race, on life, on citizenship, on just a lot of different things. So today I'm going to dive in and talk about my 5 reflections or observations of being Black while a Black American abroad. So number 1 is our reputation precedes us. Americans get a bad rap for sure. All Americans get a bad rap for sure. But also, Black Americans tend to have this very jaded reputation. And it just kind of depends on what media you've been watching, right? It's the whole hip hop angle, it's the whole criminal violent angle, it's the whole bad attitude angle. So it just depends on what ignorance feed you've been receiving. And by that, I'm not saying that to be offensive to anybody who may have misunderstood or has gotten the bad reputation of Black Americans, because I think the media that we consume just has so much to do with it. The media that we see in our different countries about other places is very limited and is often just a minute aspect of what the reality of that culture or people is. There's like all these stereotypes that are surrounding us before we even say our name or get a chance to show someone who we are. Okay, so I just want to say that people often think that we're sensitive about race. We're quick to jump off and be argumentative or have an attitude. This is an issue that most Black people face in America anyway. Sometimes Black Americans can be a little bit overrated with the whole racial sensitivity thing, because everything is not always racism. Sometimes people say some ignorant stuff that needs to be checked or they need to be educated on, or someone saying something that's uneducated about Blackness. I don't know. It doesn't always mean that's straight up racism or they mean it maliciously. And so I just always try to be clear about that. However, just going back to the point, our reputation, not even our reputation, I guess I shouldn't even be saying that. It's just the stereotypical reputation of Black Americans precede us. That's just always disheartening. I don't like it. I don't know what I can do about it, but hopefully, people can just start to wise up and let the person prove to you who they are, because we're all different. We're all different, and you cannot, generalize us or throw a blanket statement over us and make it think that is true, because we're all different. Number two, yo Black ain't like mine. All right, so this goes kind of to the point that the example that I made about the Black Canadian girl telling me about her experience when the person found out they weren't American. They were like, oh, okay, like they were relieved that they can joke and talk with them. With what I know about history and the slave trade and things like that, I just always thought that more or less, most Black people, like Black Canadians or Black British, we all kind of have the same history. So we do and we don't have a lot in common. We have certain things in common, but I think their perspective on being Black is a lot different from ours. They tend to identify with nationality and or heritage more than straight up Blackness like we do. We have a subset culture almost from the typical mainstream American culture. Like oftentimes we refer to things that go on with Black people as Black America. We take a really big pride in that because of our history. If you look at the violent history in America, and really all the times that I will call it the system has tried to deplete us and burn us out. And just, it's just like, if you know the history of America and racism in America, honey, you will be patting us on the back for how far we have come, how far we have continually come through history. So I'll come back to that. But anyway, so I'm going to move on. That was number 2. Your black ain't like mine. Realizing that we don't identify the same, or we have different perspectives. So the point I was making about how they identify more nationally than by race, which is not a bad thing. It's all good. I'm just saying it's different for us as black Americans. So the Canadian woman was explaining to me, we don't say we're black Canadians, but I might be Haitian Canadian or Jamaican Canadian, or something like that. So they identify, again, back to either their heritage or they're just straight up Canadian. There is no black, white, Chinese, whatever. If you are born and bred in Canada, you're just Canadian. The same applies to British people. They identify more nationally than by color or race. So number 3, understanding the importance of the African diaspora. I've heard that phrase and I felt like I understood it to a degree, but I feel like I understand it even deeper now, being here in Korea, of all places. The African diaspora, we're all different. We live in different places, but we all come from the same place, which is Africa. And so there is that love that people who believe in Pan-Africanism and the African diaspora believe in. It's like, we're brothers and sisters. We may be separated by seas and oceans, but we're brothers and sisters. We come together. Being here, it's given me a deeper understanding and love for that ideology, but at the same time, it's made it a little difficult because of the points that I just made earlier. A lot of people some people don't feel comfortable loving on each other, and I mean showing love to each other just because they're black. They feel like that's a no-no. In America, like, that's what's up. That's what's up. You showing love. And even in other communities, in America at least, it's the same way. A lot of Latinos, they're like that. Like, they show, usually, in my experience, what I have observed, they show each other love, man. They help each other out, like, intergenerationally, and it's just like an affinity thing more than anything else. But I find that can sometimes be strained here, in my experience, in living in Korea and meeting black people from different parts of the world. So number 4, racism doesn't exist here. And what I mean by that is, for people like black Brits or whatever who say like racism doesn't exist or it's not as bad as it is in America, like, people love to say how terrible the racism is in America, which is true. It's true. But here's a few points that I've noticed. Let's talk a little bit about Britain, and in particular England, right? So a lot of the people that I've talked to about this, what I've noticed who are black Brits, is that their heritage is either African or Caribbean. So that was interesting to me. That was really interesting to me. And some of them consider themselves black Brits, but most of them just consider themselves British. And one of the other things that I've noticed, I guess, is kind of like the whiting out of black people in Britain or in England. Because most of the people that I know, again, who are black British, have African roots. Like, their parents or grandparents came from Africa and migrated to England, or again from the Caribbean, like they're Jamaican or something like that. The few people that I know who are black Brits, they're like, yeah, we don't really know a lot of black British people, like black Americans whose ancestry goes back like hundreds and hundreds of years in America. Is this the setup? Like, because they take pride in saying that, oh, Britain was one of the first countries to, abolish slavery or to end slavery, because when they realized how, inhumane it was. But my thing is, well, where did they go? where are the black people then? Did they all just white out the black race? Maybe that sounds crazy, but to me, these things I wonder about from being here in Korea and just learning about other people's history, other people's culture from different countries. It's just really interesting. It's really, really interesting. They say racism doesn't exist. They say racism doesn't exist, right? So coming back to the point. But a lot of Black Americans I know who have moved abroad in Europe to France or England or whatever, they're like, where are all the Black people? Where are all the Black people? And when they do see the Black people, they're in like lower of the lowest low income jobs. So like drivers or, maintenance people, janitors, things like that. And it's just interesting to me because if there is no racism there, then there should be this equality thing of people on the rise, or it should be more diverse visually. You shouldn't have to really search for it or hunt for it. It just things that have me just deep in thought, I guess, is what Lastly, I'll say. We are the examples. They say the racism is the worst, it's the most violent, it's the most, ridiculous, quite frankly. The world is laughing at us. Donald Trump, please have a seat. Please, because the world is looking at us like, But anyway, we are the examples. So again, talking to one of my Black British friends, they were telling me that in their school, and I don't know if their Black History Month, I don't think it's in February, I think it's a different month, I can't remember. But when they learn about Black history, they learn about the history that happened in America, like the civil rights in America and things like that in America. And I was just dumbfounded because it's like, where is your history? And to me, this is kind of the problem. Like, France has made the point to say, we don't do race, we're all French people, so we don't even touch that. And when I first heard that, I was like, man, that's so cool, but then at the same time, it's like, well, then how do you keep track of things that go wrong, or people who are discriminated against? Like, you don't. So, and going back to the point that I just don't believe that racism doesn't exist. So that is kind of a problem. People say that racism is the worst in America. We got it bad. I won't lie. But also, we put our stuff on Front Street, honey. We have no shame in our game. We put it all on Front Street for better or for worse. And I don't think other countries do that. I think other countries sweep a lot of their stuff under the rug. Because no country is perfect. Just like no person is perfect. So we all have our issues. But that is, again, it just really makes things that make you go, So they learn about the Black American Black history. For people in Britain, that's not their history. That's not their history. It's an important piece of history, but it's not their history. Also, they don't really have Black movies. Now, there's this new movement where it's like a lot of Black actors don't like their movies being called Black. It's an all-Black cast, whatever you want to call it. But basically, they don't have movies that are a predominantly Black cast or about Black culture. When they want to watch a Black movie, they watch American movies. It's just interesting for me because, like I said, I knew about the world outside of me. I've traveled before, internationally, before coming to Korea. And I thought I knew a lot about the world, but living abroad has just really taught me so much about different people's perspectives and their perspective on me as a Black American. And also, I must say this. I love what's going on in America with the Black Lives Matter movement. It is such an important and powerful movement. I feel like it is affecting positive change all around the world for Black people who have been, Black skinned people, brown skinned people, whatever, who have been discriminated against, treated like shit, to be quite frank, have been denied simple rights, have been prosecuted or treated unfairly. I feel like so many people are rising up for justice. So many people are rising up for justice and for equality. And I just think that's a really beautiful thing. I think it's a really beautiful thing. But I've talked long enough. I want to hear back from y'all. Let's have some positive, intelligent conversations. I'm not dissing anybody. I'm just sharing my experience and my thoughts. So please, let's start a conversation. Leave your comments in the comment section below. So let me know what your perspective has been. Or even for you, as wherever you come from, what has been your experience living abroad and being a little bit out of place? What have you learned about yourself and other people from being abroad? All right. Thanks for watching.